welcome to the Live Your Power Hour. I'm your host, Jenny Craig, and I am so delighted to have an amazing man, Darrell Knoch, that's here with me today. Let's tell you a little bit about Darrell, and then I'm going to let him share his own inspiring story with us. He was born into extreme poverty. He was the youngest of 7 kids, and he had an accident at the age of 1 that disfigured his face. He grew up, and he would tell you, he's going to explain this much better than I, but knowing a little bit about his story, he would tell you he had poor self-esteem and was so angry at the world. He had a shift in life where he then made a commitment to start educating himself and decided to face the challenges that he had and learn to overcome them. And from that, you're going to be amazed that he set up several different companies that he started out, took national, then took international, and because of the success of those ventures, was able to retire young. And he'll say it's semi-retiring because now he's actually delighted to share with other people how he's overcome these major challenges in his life to start helping other people. So he's actually written a book, and it's really to help people build a healthy self-image and build unstoppable self-confidence. So welcome, Darrell, to the show.
Thank you.
So, Darrell, tell us a little bit. I really don't know the whole story about what happened when you were growing up.
Well, when I was 1 year old, as you mentioned, I was, getting a little friskier, I guess, and trying to run and walk. So we were outside, and I started running out towards the road. And being the youngest of 7, my older sister, who was 11 at the time, she came running after me to stop me from getting out to the road. And unfortunately, she tripped and she fell on the sidewalk and literally landed on my head and crushed my face into the cement.
Oh, gosh.
So naturally, at 1 year of age, your bone is not very rigid at that point, and so it literally crushed my nose and my mid-face. And because we were on welfare at the time, and welfare isn't what it is today, 57 years ago. So we had no choice. My mother wiped my nose and my face clean, and I grew up with that crushed face. Because that's all we could do.
Wow.
So, naturally, when I know you work a lot with children, and growing up in grade school and grammar school and high school, there were a lot of kids that were not quite as kind as it might have been nice for me to have had them be. And so I got joked about the fact that I had a flat nose and a disfigured, somewhat disfigured looking face. So that made me pretty angry, so to speak. I would be the first one, even if somebody was twice the size that I was, if they made a joke about my face or my nose, I would light into them. And, of course, naturally, that got me into trouble quite regularly. So that didn't help my self-esteem either. But fortunately, by the time I was 16, I graduated from high school when I was 17, and so as I was entering my last year of high school, my mother and I had saved just enough money to at least get my nose fixed. And because I begged her, I said, please don't make me go get a high school yearbook photograph with my nose still crushed. And so we saved and scrimped, and we did manage to get my nose fixed. At age 40, I actually had a couple of surgeries. That one was 11 hours, the other was maybe 2 or 3 hours.
Wow.
But at age 40, I did get the rest of my face brought back out. And I joke with people. There was kind of 2 jokes. when I was younger in life and my face was still a little crushed, and I would always say, one of the reasons that I've been so successful is my head is so hard, and I'm just so determined to get someplace. I smack my face against the wall in a regular basis in order to prove that I can accomplish something. So that was
right.
a joke of how I would let people feel comfortable with the fact that my face was still a little crushed until I was 40.
Wow.
So, but what really made the change for me, I was so determined that I was, we were so poor, and I just, regularly my family would tell me that even as a young child, I would proudly prance around the house, so to speak, and I would say, I don't care how hard I have to work, I'm going to be rich when I grow up. And so that was a major focus for me. And I was so driven for that purpose, probably in an effort to prove that I was someone, that even with that crushed face and my crushed nose, that wasn't going to keep me down. And, I had the good fortune of my mother always said to me, and I believe that that's a real key, is you can be anything you want to be. You can do anything you want if you just believe in yourself and you are willing to work hard enough to get what it is that you want. So she built that first foundation for me of telling me that I could do anything that I wanted to do. So even with that crushed face, I had that foundation, and then at age 21, approximately, my oldest brother gave me a set of Zig Ziglar tapes, and I literally just started immersing myself from the time I started listening. And that set of tapes, along with my mother's foundation, and started me on a lifelong learning venture to really make my self-esteem totally different than what it had been as a child.
Wow. So tell the listeners, because I've been fortunate enough to hear a little bit about your story. So you went out and you got those Zig Ziglar tapes, and then tell us what you did. How did these manufacturing firms, what did you do?
Well, I used the phrase that I really got lucky in that I was sitting at the kitchen table one day, and this was back in the 70s when we had our first real, so to speak, oil embargo, is what they called it at the time. And I had been working for the state of Michigan, and they only liked me to work from 8:30 to 5, and at 5 o'clock I had to leave the office. I wasn't allowed to be there and work any extra. So at 24, I had so much energy, I had to find other things to do with my time. And so I had started burning wood in my home as an extra source of heat for the house, so that I wouldn't be using, at the time I lived in the Upper Peninsula, Michigan, and the fuel oil was the main source of heat that people heated their house with. And so, and I don't remember the numbers, but let's say that, back then it was 25 cents a gallon for fuel oil. And then all of a sudden, practically overnight, it was 50 cents a gallon. And, we were, the whole country was shocked and went into, wood burning at that point became a massive craze. And so I was sitting looking at my wood-burning stove, thinking about all that heat going up the chimney. And somehow or another, I designed this device that would set at the outlet of the wood stove and capture some of that heat and put it back in